Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. My name is Matt Harvey. I am the founder and lead investigator with Deep Woods Paranormal. I am also the owner of the Deep Woods Paranormal podcast and the host as well. So today we are going to talk about haunted, famous cemeteries in the United States. Now, I know we have viewers from all over the world, and you're going, Matt, your cemeteries are just babies compared to ours. We've got cemeteries that are also famous and way more haunted than yours. And I completely understand that. And again, if you want to leave your comment down below as we go through the cemeteries and, tell us about yours, we'd love to hear about it. So let's get into these haunted cemeteries. This also follows up on the haunted bridges we did from last week. So, we're going to talk about five famous haunted cemeteries, and then there's so many more haunted cemeteries in the U.S. and, of course, around the world. But we're going to focus in on these because these are the most popular. Okay, so first one is the St. Louis Cemetery, and this is in New Orleans, Louisiana. The Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. The Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, California. I've been there many times, had a few fun experiences, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. The Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Illinois, and the Howard Street Cemetery in Salem, Massachusetts. Now, I mean, that one, if you're not perking your ears on that one, you're like, what? That's where the Salem witch trials happened. Yes. So if you're into the paranormal and you've researched the paranormal, or you're just a fan of the paranormal, that one's probably going to be pretty interesting. So we're going to break all that down in just a minute here. We're going to discuss why I feel like cemeteries are being haunted. There's a lot of energy and grief and tragedy and rituals and burials that happen at these cemeteries. Um, I remember being at a mortuary and getting permission to actually do an investigation at one of these mortuaries. And this gentleman unfortunately had just passed recently. He was having surgery, a very young guy, probably in his 30s. And unfortunately, he uh, had, I guess they nicked an artery while they were doing surgery on him, and they couldn't stop the bleeding, and he passed away. So we were sitting there, and we weren't really focused on him. We were focused just on the location. And K2s, we were allowed to set our K2s on top of his coffin, his temporary coffin. And so essentially, um, as basically he was being prepared to be buried, he starts lighting up the K2s, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And the gentleman that was with us, basically kind of giving us the kind of tour, told us about his story. And it's pretty sad. And he was really the gentleman that passed away was really, really upset that that happened to him. He was not happy about what was going on, and he was not ready to leave yet. So, I mean, when these people get buried, that's kind of what happens. I mean, he might be haunting the cemetery that he's in right now. So who knows? Okay. Common ghost, basically seen in cemeteries, women in white, phantom children, and then spectral animals sometimes. Are hauntings tied to restless spirits or the living's expectations? Meaning, when you go to the cemetery, are you expecting to see something there? Is it, and this is for for the skeptics out there. Um, you guys are gonna love me for just a second here, but is it all in your head? um, is basically when you go there, are you expecting to see something so badly that you manifest something in your own head, and you might be experiencing activity just through your own manifestation of whatever you think you're expecting to see. um you know so like I said, I've been to many cemeteries before. We used to go to the San Juan Capistrano Cemetery, and we used to just see shadows just darting around. We couldn't go in, unfortunately. We would stand at the wall and look over, and I mean, we would see shadows down bouncing around all over the place. Sometimes if we were lucky, we had our K2 sitting on top of the wall. Something would come over and actually essentially light up our K2s. My very first experience with a cemetery came when I was a little kid. We had gone up north, Northern California to visit a old neighbor, and I was probably 5 or 6. I wasn't very old, and in that point in time, I was still seeing ghosts like they're you and me. And we were playing hide and seek, and it was dusk. It wasn't dark. It wasn't full light. The sun was just starting to go down, and there was a lot of shadows everywhere because of the sun going down. So I had the bright idea. There was a cemetery. They had their house, on one side of the street, and there was a huge cemetery on the other side. So I think we kind of all ran into the cemetery. But essentially, I was running through and I'm running and running and running. It seemed like forever. And all of a sudden, I run past this guy and he's just sitting there, leaning on a shovel essentially. And he looks at me and he goes, "Son, where are you going?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm in trouble, right? I'm getting in trouble." He goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "We're playing hide and seek." He goes, "Oh, we'll go hide behind that headstone over there." So I did as I was told because I was 6 and I didn't know any better. So I run over behind the cemetery, I mean, behind the grave, and I'm sitting there looking at it. I turn around to look at him. He's gone. I mean, I'm in the middle of the cemetery. If he had walked off, I only ran about 4 or 5 steps. It was not very far, maybe 10 feet. He could not have gotten away that quickly. He just disappeared. And so we had some other experiences when we were staying with them that night. But anyways, have you guys ever been to a haunted cemetery? Do you guys, feel free to share your stories down below. Leave a comment. Love to hear your stories. Tell us, what your theories are on haunted cemeteries. Would you spend the night in one of these cemeteries? Which do you think is the scariest? So we'll ask you at the end. What I'll do is I'll put up a poll in the on the YouTube channel, and you guys can go through and look and see what you guys think. So, okay, let's get into the cemeteries. Okay, so number one is the St. Louis Cemetery. So this is in Louisiana, and it's the home of the Voodoo Queen Mary LaView. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, and a variety of other paranormal experiences have happened in this location. This cemetery is supposed to be very, very haunted. Hold on one sec, guys. I want to take a sip of my water. All right. All right. So, there's a haunted figure that visitors and guests report seeing the ghost of Mary LaView walking around the tombs. Supposedly, her apparition is sometimes seen wearing her signature red and white turban, and she's also seen wearing brightly colored clothing before she disappears. And guests say that LaView's spirit is not always friendly. She said to pinch people, she scratches people, knocks them down, and but these people are the people that are being disrespectful to her. And so, if you're a skeptic and you go into the cemetery, be careful. You don't want to disrespect her. She was a voodoo queen, so we do not want to upset her in any way. So, anyways, and there's also sounds of whispering and sounds of people basically talking. People have interacted with Lougarou's tomb, particularly after leaving offerings, and they claim to hear her disembodied voice in their ears. They leave offerings such as flowers, Mardi Gras beads, coins at her tomb. It's believed that basically, if you leave a traditional X on her tomb, turn around and knock, uh, she will give you a wish to be granted. While defacing the tomb, the practice, yeah, blah blah blah. Anyway, so they say that basically, if you put an X on her tomb and you do the ritual, uh, she might actually grant you a wish, which is pretty nice. A lot of people seem to leave her offerings and stuff like that, and she does manifest from time to time. So they've claimed that in this cemetery, they also see many other apparitions wandering in the cemetery grounds, from shadowy figures to phantom shapes that move through the labyrinth of above ground tombs both day and night. So in Louisiana, it floods a lot. And when it floods, the tombs basically flood as well. And, imagine a bunch of soft dirt and it flooding consistently, like in Katrina and stuff like that. And all those bodies basically being washed up out of the ground. So they put them inside tombs to basically keep them from floating away. You know, can't imagine, in the middle of, a storm, all of a sudden you see a coffin float by. So, anyways, Civil War soldiers are spotted and believed to be the ghosts. And basically, they died of yellow fever. They were buried in the cemetery. Spectral animals. It says some ghost stories describe a large, ghostly black dog that protects the cemetery grounds at night and scares away trespassers. So, again, take that with a grain of salt. It could actually be a real dog, or it could just be a devil dog, and so got to watch out for that. Um, Cemeteries, especially at night, negative things tend to come out of cemeteries at night and mess with people. A lot of ghost hunters that go into these cemeteries, not a lot, but some ghost hunters that go into these cemeteries do bring home apparitions and negative entities that like to do them harm. So you got to be careful when you leave the cemetery. Again, I always say, you got to clear yourself. And if you guys want to know more about that, feel free to comment down below, and I'll get into that in a specific video. Um, so visitors also reported unexplained occurrences, including electronic voice phenomenon, which is just doing EVP. And if you don't know what EVP is, that's when you record audio with your phone or a audio recording device and you listen back. It could even be a video camera. We've gotten EVPs on video cameras too before, where you listen back and there's actually a voice that you didn't hear before. And so they're seeing orbs in photos. Now I know for my orb fans, and you're like, yeah, that's great. And for my other fans that go, no, 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 we don't do orbs. Again, that could be, it's just open to turn into interpretation, if I could talk. So there's disembodied cries and an unknown stranger who walks around as well. Um, so other resident spirits that people have experienced, Henry Vidness, the ghost of a sailor, he is said to roam the cemetery. Supposedly he was denied burial in his family's tomb. And so essentially now he's roaming around asking visitors for where the location of the tomb is so he can go home. You got to feel for him. He's probably feeling pretty sad. I'm getting goosebumps. There's a freezing cold spot behind me. Last time I did this, guys, I had this ghost box on and it went terribly. They were trying to come through, and a few voices did come through when I was talking about one of the cemeteries. And yeah, so, but we couldn't quite understand her, and it was just a lot of screaming, and yeah, it just was not very clear. So I'm doing this again this way. All right. So Stephanie Lolari, excuse me. She's the infamous social and alleged serial killer. She's supposedly buried in the cemetery, and her tomb is also said to be haunted. And there's some dispute whether she's actually is there. Um, the first mayor of New Orleans is also buried here, and he is said to linger and roam the cemetery. Uh, so Anyways, this cemetery sounds really cool. This is one of the ones I've not been to. Amanda and I went to a cemetery in Louisiana. You guys go back and look at that video and watch that while we walked around during the day and tried to communicate with whatever is there. I don't remember if we got any evidence or not, but it definitely felt like there was some entities that were still there. The cemetery we walked through was really, really well taken care of. It was beautiful. So, okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, so Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. Legendary Resurrection Mary. Okay, so yeah, we'll get into the Resurrection Mary here in a minute. She's the hitchhiking ghost that people see on one of the roads out there, and I'll get into her story in just a minute here. Okay. So, basic Resurrection Mary, the story typically begins with a young woman named Mary who's out for a dance at the old Henry Ballroom. I guess later, now is basically located on Archer Avenue. Bear with me, guys. I'm just kind of scanning through these. I don't want to get hit with a copyright infringement, so I'm basically just kind of reading through this as I go. So I guess she got into an argument with her boyfriend. She left the dance and wanted to hitchhike home, and she was in a white party dress, and it was a cold night. As she was walking, she was struck and hit by a hit and run driver, and she's actually said to be buried at the Resurrection Cemetery, and that's what gives the ghost its name. So, okay. Mary is described as a fashionable young blonde in her mid 20s. She's wearing a white wedding gown, or sorry, a white dress. We have a lot of women in white that are seen all over the place. Sometimes with a shawl and dancing shoes. Those who have seen her basically says she has like a real pale appearance. Um, so since the 1930s, what happens is people drive by, usually men, and they pick her up and she hitchhikes along Archer Avenue. And then as the car gets near the gates of the cemetery, she asks to be let out and then just disappears into thin air, which is creepy cool. Oh my gosh. I am getting goosebumps. They are loving my story. Something's standing right behind me. All right. So beyond the vanishing hitchhiker that have been associated with this cemetery, there's the Bent Cemetery gates. I guess in the 1970s, it was reported that a passerby saw a young woman trapped inside the cemetery, and after hours, when the police investigated, she was nowhere to be seen. But the wrought iron gate bars actually were bent apart, bearing basically bearing her ghostly handprints. Um, while cemetery officials claim the truck was responsible, the incident fueled the legend. And then there was also a phantom car crash. Some drivers have reported hitting or nearly hitting a young woman in the road near the cemetery, only for her body to disappear when they stop to check to make sure she's okay. So yeah, just crazy. So Mary, the young Polish, there's some other people that have been buried in the cemetery supposedly. Uh, Mary uh, Bregov. This is a young Polish American woman. She died in 1930 in a car accident in downtown Chicago. Um, but her connection to the legend has been largely discredited. Okay, so they're saying that's been discredited. So that could be where the woman they've seen dying in front of the cemetery is, um, and stuff like that. So there's just a few more things. You guys can come in and look at these on your own. We'll continue on. So, all right. The Hollywood Forever Cemetery, Los Angeles, California. Bear with me, I'm just getting another drink. So, the Hollywood Forever Cemetery is basically the resting place of a lot of celebrities, lots of celebrities. It's a beautiful cemetery, really well taken care of. They do have like movies in the cemetery. Um, I don't remember what the days are. I don't even know if they're still doing it, but I know we went there a couple of times during that, and we kind of left and went and investigated on our own and stuff like that. We were working with a producer at that point, and so, anyways, so the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles is the final resting place for a lot of celebrities. It's also famous for numerous paranormal reports and ghost stories. Um, Visitors and staff have seen ghostly figures, particularly near the mausoleums, where most of the legendary stars have been entombed. So, let's get into this. Randolph Valentino. He was the silent film guy from back in the 1920s, I believe. He's also buried in this mausoleum, and he's been allegedly seen wandering the grounds. And mysterious lady in black reported visits his crypt nearly every year. So essentially, it sounds like maybe his ex-wife or whatever comes to visit him and stuff like that. That's a story of love, which is beautiful. Virginia Rappe. Rappe was a silent film actress who tragically died following a party involving actor Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. He created a major Hollywood scandal, so that's fun. Anytime you got a scandal in Hollywood, uh, yeah, there's always going to be a ghost attributed to it. Um, so they claim to see her um, basically visiting Valentina's crypt. So maybe that's Lady in Black. Okay, Clifton Webb. He's also known for his roles in Laura and the Razor's Edge. He's said to cause disturbances such as unexplained noises and cold spots near his crypt. The other Lady in Black, she is frequently seen near Valentina. Yeah, they basically are repeating the same thing. So the cemetery's ornate and historic mausoleums, including the cathedral mausoleum in the Abbey of Psalms, are basically the most haunted places. Again, guys, bear with me. I'm trying not to do anything copyright issues here. Have any copyright issues by reading this word for word. So I'm just kind of putting my own words in here from time to time. So people are experiencing unexplained noises. They're hearing disembodied voices, whispering, mysterious footsteps echoing through the long marble-lined halls. I experienced that. We hung out there for God at least an hour or two, and we heard like somebody walking around. Think we heard whispering too at one point. We were recording the whole time, audio, video. We didn't pick it up. We could definitely hear it. And then we experienced cold spots throughout the whole cemetery as well. Um, we don't think we got a whole lot of evidence from there, if any at all, but we definitely had a lot of personal experiences. I think somebody got touched, somebody saw an apparition, but we didn't get it on camera, unfortunately. So okay, so reports describe shadowy figures, translucent shapes, and full body apparitions of people in period clothing wandering the mausoleum. So they're still having a great old time. Let's see. There's some little kid spirits that haunt the cemetery as well. They describe feeling of being touched or hearing a phantom laughter. We've been to many cemeteries and had that same thing. Little kids seem to stay in cemeteries for some reason. I don't know why, or if they're even little kids at all. If you do go to cemeteries, I will warn you to be very careful because sometimes what you think is a little kid is not a little kid. Um, okay. So they actually have tours here, ghost hunting events, and movie screenings. That's what I was talking about. So okay, so yeah, that's the Hollywood Cemetery. It's a really cool place. If you ever get the chance to visit Los Angeles, or you live in Orange County or California, somewhere in California or the surrounding states, and you do like to investigate the paranormal, I would recommend if you can get in there, go check it out. It's really a cool cemetery. If you're just not even if you're not into the paranormal and you just really like famous celebrities and stuff like that, it's just a really cool cemetery. The headstones are amazing. They've really put a lot of time and effort into making just really cool headstones for the people that passed. So, all right. So let's get into the next one, and this is the Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Illinois. Supposedly, it's largely abandoned and overgrown. Unfortunately, it's considered one of the most haunted locations in the United States. In 1991, the ghost photo of Madonna Bachelorette Grove or the lady in white, again, another lady in white, um, was seen. They got a picture of her holding an infant. So here's the picture. So you can kind of see her sitting on a what looks like a stool, and she's just basically sitting there. I don't know if this picture is real or not. It's just an internet picture, so bear with me. And it really doesn't look like she's really holding an infant. She looks like her hands are just kind of in her lap. But that's a good picture if it's real. Okay, so let me talk about the legend of the lady in white here. She's a ghostly female figure, often called the Lady in White or Madonna of Bachelor's Grove. She's said to wander the cemetery, sometimes appearing with an infant. Theories are that she's linked to the grave due to her infant daughter, while others suggest she could be Lou Rogers, who died with her children in a fire. So the photo was actually taken in 1991 by the Ghost Research Society of America. And basically, I talked about this already, so I'm not going to go into that. You guys can go look this stuff up if you want. Have you visited the cemetery? Have you had any experiences there? Did you get a picture? Did you get have any experiences? Again, feel free, comment down below and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Um, so, other famous paranormal reports in the cemetery, there's a phantom farmhouse, which is really cool. It's one of the oldest reports describing a phantom farmhouse that appears to float and shimmer off in the distance before it disappears. There's the spectral animals. This seems to be a theme with these cemeteries. People have claimed to see a black dog at the cemetery entrance, and then it basically vanishes as they approach, which is cool. Eerie lights. This is cool. Unexplained glowing lights and orbs have been spotted around the cemetery. Um, some of them describe them moving quickly. Strange noises and sounds, which is normal for a cemetery. The sound of large splashes from the pond that have no visible cause. And there's also a crying baby near the infant daughter grave. So that's where that lady in white ties into. Um, monks in robes. In the 1980s, some visitors reported seeing figures dressed in like monks, um, and then basically that's pretty much all they have in here for this, but it's interesting. Yeah, sounds like a cool cemetery. Unfortunately, it's another cemetery that has gone by the wayside, and essentially, nobody's really taking care of it or whatever. And unfortunately, it's fallen into disarray. But I imagine if people went out there, and maybe it's already happened, but maybe if people went out there and cleaned that place up and really put some energy back into that cemetery, the activity would probably pick right back up. So, I mean, there's probably just a lot of unfinished business for these people. That lady in white, if she actually lost her kids, it could be why she's still roaming around and looking for her kids. She wants to know what happened to them. Did they make it? Did they not make it? You know, so maybe she just never passed over and doesn't know where her kids actually are. I mean, imagine as a parent, if you lost your kid and you were frantically looking around, I mean, that would be a reason for you to stay and want to figure out what's going on. So, I mean, you can just, your heart just goes out to her. All right. So let's get to the last one. Let me get a quick sip again here. All right. Howard Street Cemetery in Salem, Massachusetts. And this is basically associated with the Salem witch trials. If you don't know what the Salem witch trials are, um, back in the, what is it, 1600s? Okay. So let me just read this to you, and this will kind of cover the story I was going to tell. So the Howard Street Cemetery is associated with the Salem witch trials. Um, it was the field where Giles Corey was pressed to death in the 1692. That was what I was looking for, was a date for that. In the late 1600s, essentially, They accused a bunch of people in Salem of being witches, and there was just mass hysteria going through this village. And essentially, they hung a bunch of women for being witches, which was actually never really proven that they were. And some kids just basically accused a bunch of people of being witches. And back in those days, that just wasn't, you weren't allowed to do that. You weren't allowed to be a witch in this village due to the religious theories. So, anyways, this poor guy, they kept putting rocks and rocks and rocks on top of him. He was laying down and imagine just being crushed to death by large rocks until you couldn't breathe. And basically, who knows what else happened to him. I'm sure it was terrible. But they accused him of being a witch, and basically, until they kept putting more and more stones on top of him until he were, basically said he was a witch. And I don't think he actually ever did. But I mean, imagine the trauma and all the stuff associated with being crushed to death like that. I mean, imagine how upset you would be, and especially if you were wrongly accused. But so his spirit is said to haunt the cemetery. This cemetery actually opened in 1801, and visitors report cold spots, shadow people, and ghostly screams. I can only imagine. Um, so after he was pressed to death, basically his ghost has been seen in an open field adjacent to the Salem jail, where the 81-year-old Giles Corey was tortured to death, and for the practice again of witchcraft. Corey never yielded, um, with his last words defiantly demanding more weight. So basically, he was just telling him to go ahead and get it over with. So his spirit is said to linger through the grounds of the modern cemetery. The ghostly omen, local lore claims that Corey's ghost has been seen in the cemetery just before a major disaster strikes in Salem. Witnesses report seeing him before the Great Salem Fire of 1914, which devoured actually most of the town. Other paranormal reports to basically the Howard Street Cemetery, adjacent from the former Salem jail, are cold spots. Many people describe sudden local drops in temperature, which is basically just a cold spot. If you don't know what a cold spot is, essentially imagine if you're in a nice warm house and then a draft kind of comes in and it gets really cold real quick. Um, that's basically what that is. It's the theory behind a cold spot is that there's just energy. The warmth is energy, right? Cold is also energy. It's a different type, but there's this energy. This you're in a nice warm room, and all of a sudden you're in an area where it's said to be haunted, and all of a sudden the air temperature around you, or maybe just you, just all of a sudden get really really cold. The theory is that ghosts will drain energy away from you or rain away from that area to create energy for themselves to manifest in some way. And by manifest, I mean they can basically create a voice. They can create an EVP, which I talked about earlier. They might show themselves. You might catch a glimpse of something. Something might move. You might hear something. You might feel something. You might have a vision. There's a lot of different things manifestation could involve, but you guys kind of get the general idea. Um, so, um, so there's witnesses that have reported taking photographs of the mysterious shapes reported in the jail, and basically they see a man who resembles a 19th century gentleman with a top hat. So let me retry that. So basically, witnesses have reported getting a photo of mysterious shapes and reported seeing a man in a 19th century clothing with a top hat. Um, so basically, he's seen by the jail. And there's a lot of apparitions that are seen over by the jail. Ghostly screams. Um, I can only imagine. I mean, if that's where they were hanging the witches and stuff like that, not the witches, but the women accused of being witches. Um, Imagine you're being pretty much murdered at that point in time, and imagine the energy that you're feeling right before that happens. I mean, cemeteries, like I said, cemeteries seem to hold a lot of energy. When you go through and you go, let's just say that you go into a cemetery, it doesn't matter which one, and you pick a grave and or multiple graves, and you don't may not know this person, or maybe it's somebody that you've lost, and you go back there and you're just you maybe you just lost that loved one or whatever, and you start pouring all of this energy into that person, and most of it's probably sadness and upset and whatever else, or missing that person or whatever. All those emotions get poured into that area, right? And you're creating an area of energy, so that energy could be transferred to that person, that ghost or whatever you want to call them, spectral figure or whatever. They can be, they can absorb some of that energy possibly, and basically respond maybe in a way, like I said before, and manifest in some way. And when that energy's left, it could affect the rest of the cemetery as well. Other apparitions could come to that area just to see what's going on. Maybe they are drawn to that energy. Who knows? But it's the same thing when we go and investigate. We go in there and we ask questions, and we talk to them, and we pay attention to whoever we think we're trying to communicate with. That could also draw energy back to that cemetery. And the more energy you put into that, the more reactions you possibly could get. And I think this goes back also into the fact that, what are your expectations before you go in again, too? Are you expecting to see something? Are you expecting to feel something? Are you expecting something to happen? Like I said, for my skeptics, that could be part of why people experience so many things inside a cemetery. Now, both sides of that coin, again, if you're a skeptic, you're going, okay, you're just expecting to see something. But also, if you're a believer or you're on the fence or whatever, and you experience something, it could just be that, that there is something really happening. Again, energy, you could just be, it could be helping something manifest by going in there and communicating with whoever. And there's a lot of famous ghosts that get a lot of attention in these cemeteries. And so people are constantly visiting these cemeteries and putting that energy towards them. So it makes sense for them to be more active and be more interactive, because they like the attention. Maybe they're happy that somebody's actually paying attention to them. And I think that's what happens with ghosts in general. And I'm getting goosebumps from head to toe right now. You can see the hair standing up on my arm. There's a freezing cold spot behind me, like somebody's telling me you're right, you're right. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, the more energy you put into these things, whether it be like the haunted dolls behind you, the haunted objects, or a cemetery, or a haunted location, the more attention they get, the more energy they get, I believe the more easy it is for them to manifest in some way. So I'll leave you guys with that. Again, you guys really got to make up your own mind as to what you think is going on in these cemeteries. Have you been to, like I said before, have you been to haunted cemetery? Um, did you experience something at a cemetery? Was it good? Was it bad? Feel free to comment down below. And we're always looking for podcast guests. So if you've been, you're a paranormal guest, figure if you're a paranormal investigator, or you aren't a paranormal investigator but you're just into this hobby, or you went somewhere and you had an experience, we'd love to hear about it. Again, please comment down below and contact us if you want, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
I can see you.